start with a 60mm barbell eye shank from OPST. I'm just going to put just the very, maybe 1/8 of an inch in the shuck tool. I'm going to start with the eye up here. Really give it a good torque so it doesn't spin on you when you're going to tying these barbell eyes. I've noticed on this, if you don't get it good and torqued down, when you're putting on the barbell eyes, the whole shank will want to spin on you, so give it a good torque. I'm going to start my thread right up at the top here. And I'm using 50 denier gel spun. Alright, now I'm going to flip it over. Get ready to attach my barbell eyes. And I just put a little dab of Zap-A-Gap there. And these are the double pupil eyes from Hairline. This is chartreuse. And this is going to be large size. So start with some figure 8 wraps here. And I'm going to take my zap and lace them down on the thread and continue my figure 8 wraps. And once I've got all the zap on, I'm going to go underneath them just to really make sure they're secured in there and they're not going to go anywhere. Okay, now I'm going to lay down a thread base all the way to the rear of the hook. And what I've found with the Norvise, this thing is amazing for big intruders. Just for that reason, I just saved a bunch of time going all the way back. So now it's time to attach our wire. And this is Senyo's Intruder wire, and this is the for size 6 and larger, because we'll most likely be putting a 1 or a 1/0 even on this. And something to consider for your wires is pick up just a little cheap pair of like $10 wire cutters to really help save your scissors. And to attach this, I'm going to create a loop. And I don't want to cattywampus at all. I want to make sure everything's nice and straight. So I'm just going to make about 4 wraps, get it where I want it here, and just pull it back. And this fly is going to be about 5 inches, so I'm actually going to be a little technical here, throw a ruler on it and just see where my hook's going to end up. So it's a little long. Because on this hook, we're gonna be just under an inch. That's good right there. We're gonna be just under an inch for the shank length, so I want to make sure everything matches up correctly. Alright, so this is pretty well secured in now. Nice and even. The wire's not rolling to one side. And again, Zap-A-Gap. I'm gonna just run a little bead of zap on the top and run this down. I don't like to use the rotary feature for this step because I really want to keep total control of this wire and keep it on the very top of the shank. And so you can see I have to adjust it every once in a while. This is a lot of real estate to try to control with just turning the vise. So there's things that make this vise amazing, and then there's things that you just, sometimes I feel like you have to just use like a regular vise, which is fine. Okay, so now that I'm to the top, I'm going to flip these back over and really lock them down. Alright, so this is secured. This will break before it pulls out at this point now, which is exactly what we're going for. I'm going to create just a small little tag, and this isn't necessary, I just think it looks cool. And this is just some green mini flat braid. You could use like Glow Bright floss, something like that. I'm just going to create just a small little tag here. And that's it. That's all that's going to be. Just something to kind of separate the dubbing from the wire. Now for the rear dubbing loop, or the rear dubbing bump I should say. I'm going to create a dubbing loop. And I'm going to use the SSS Hot Green Highlander, and I'm just going to take a second when I get it out of the package and just kind of separate it, kind of get all the fibers pointing the same direction if I can, and this can take a few seconds, but material prep, proper material prep really makes everything look better and gives you the effect that you kind of want and are kind of going after. So I'm just going to separate this just a little bit, spin her up, and got a little too much. So hackle pliers are your best friend when you're dealing with dubbing loops. And I'm going to brush it out with Velcro, seems to work the best. There we go, get a new one. This little stone faux brush works really nice. And I better move my thread up a little bit. And then we're going to wrap our rear dubbing. Alright, get it all nice and secured tight. Again, take our Velcro and get this all back out. Alright, that's done. And we're going to create another dubbing loop here for our Arctic Fox. And this is what's going to be our actual prop, or part of it. And I'm going to just grab a little clump of chartreuse. And once you have it, I'm going to pull out these kind of longer guard hairs here. Kind of try to get it even. And your comb is your best friend here, so really give it a good comb over, and you can see all this stuff that's coming out that's gonna sorry, just getting over a cold, that's gonna affect our dubbing loop and how nice and separate and easy it will be to spin. So now we've got everything that's in a row. Open the loop. And at this point we're going to determine how big we want it. And since this is a big fly, this is going to extend about halfway, maybe about halfway into the wire. Once we get our length, we can go ahead and cut the rear. And spin her up. Alright, now again we just comb it all out, make sure everything gets out of the thread. Got about 4 turns out of that. I could have done one more, but that's alright. Alright, nice and secure there. Again, velcro it out. Cool. Now, I'm going to take an intruder prop feather and chartreuse. Tie that in, tip first. Run my scissors down the top, that will help fold over those fibers. Wrap that in. Alright. So as you can probably tell already, the whole point of this rear station is we're layering all this stuff because we just want big. I mean, we don't want this to collapse very easy. We want a big presence. Alright, so now I'm going to throw in some Amherst pheasant. And you could put this in a dubbing loop. I like to try to control this a little more as far as where I want to put it. It's easy to get maybe a little more than you want or the effect you're after, which for me is just a little on the sparser side. I don't really want this as a true like full prop necessarily. This is more for just color accent and color breakup to kind of help everything match. Alright. Tie all those down. Again, I'll just run through it with my Velcro here, trying to get everything all nice and separated. And now I can run some ostrich. I'm going to start with four on either side. I'm going to match these up a little better here. I'm just going to take 2 wraps on my first one and come back, give it a measure, see if I'm at 5 inches here. Alright, that's perfect. So now I've got something to reference. I'm just going to take some time here, and missed one, and just kind of set these all around where I want them. There's no exact science to this, and there's nothing that's right or wrong about it. It's just how aesthetically pleasing it is to you. And I tend to just put them in pairs all around the shank here, to where they're fairly on this kind of on the sparser side, just to make sure everything's going to kind of move the way it should. You can certainly put this in a doubling loop as well. Like I say, I just like to have a little more control over where I'm actually setting everything. Actually, that looks pretty good right there. I don't think I need any more. So I'll come back up to the point of contact here where everything terminates. Give these a clip and run it up. And the reason I'm doing this is just to maintain an even body. Okay, now I'm going to take some of the DNA hollow fusion fibers, give us some flashback here and work these around the same way. You can actually just double those over. Just come back and make sure none of them are sticking out way far past our ostrich row there. That looks pretty good there. We got some flash going now in the rear section. And it's time for our hackle tips that we made. Do one on either side of the wire. Alright, looks pretty good. Cool. Now we can start building our main body here. So I'm going to tie in some medium oval tinsel. And some of the charcoal black holographic mini flat braid, the SSS braid. Wrap them both back here. Move the thread to the front. As far as room goes, you can always wrap back over this, but I'm going to give myself, we'll say, half an inch from the front end, a little more maybe. But you're just going to have to eyeball this, how much stuff we put up here. You'll see. Yep, see, that's the spitting I was talking about there. So we're going to be about 3/4 of an inch back. And start wrapping our mini flat braid up. So I'm going to go kind of one layer up, and I may come back and just kind of even out my body. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to select a chartreuse saddle hackle. It's going to have to be a pretty long one. Now you don't need this body hackle at all. A lot of people will tie these without body hackle just to help it sink. This particular fly will be going on either T14 or T17, so I'm not too worried about it. Wrap her back here. Yeah. And then take your mylar, or not your mylar, but your oval, and just reverse wrap it up. And you can, to avoid trapping as many fibers, you can just wiggle it back and forth, kind of get it in there, dug right at the stem. Ooh, almost lost her. Try to even that up here. Alright. Tie that off. And then one thing I am going to do real quick is where the first point of tie off is. I'm just going to add a little drop of UV glue there, just to make sure that doesn't come out when we're casting, or if it hits rocks or anything. If you're using a wire, a medium or a brassy ultra wire, that's really not necessary, because the wire will bite into this body material a little better. But since the oval is sitting just on top, it doesn't really have a good bite in there to it. I just want to make sure that hackle is going to stay in. Alright. Now we can kind of come around. If we see any fibers, we can pick them out. This actually came through pretty clean. Just a couple. Alright, so on this front dubbing post, I'm going to use ice dub, because it collapses, or it dubs really tight. And for this one, I don't really want it picked out very much at all, if at all, just because I want to keep it in a ball form, and I really want it to stand on its own. It's just a true prop. We're not looking for movement here. We're just looking for a true ball of a prop. So I'm just going to make my wraps right on top of each other. Make a couple thread wraps in there to really cinch everything down. And I'm going to go through just with a real tight dubbing noodle here. And get it nice and tight. Alright, cool. Alright, sorry if it looks a little different. The video cut out for some reason, and I thought I was still filming and I wasn't. So here we go. We're going to go for it again here. I'm going to put on Arctic Fox now. Create a dubbing loop. And this is black. Comb is your best friend here. And now we can pick our length. And for the front, since this is a big fly, I'm going to go to about the end of the body there. And I'm probably going to have to pull a little bit out here. This is quite a bit. Alright, get that spun in and go through it real good with the comb. Get all those loose fibers out. We want to be able to see our thread through there. Alright. One, two, hoping for 3-4 wraps here. Alright, we got it, 3. Alright, go through it with the comb here, make sure everything's all nice and separate. good. I'm just going to take some gold, the original Predator wrap in gold. And this one I'm not going to put in a dubbing loop. I'm actually just going to spin while it's on the cord, or I guess wrap in. And find the metal here. And I'm hoping for 2 full wraps, so I cut plenty. There's 1. And there's 2. Find a spot here. I'm going to separate it to tie it off. Okay. Got a couple extra little stragglers there. Go ahead and pull them back. Wrap everything down real tight. I'm going to kind of wrap back up over the cord there. And here I'm going to separate all these a bit. I'm going to grab them all, bring them all up top. And I've got thinning shears, and one side's flat, one side's serrated. I'm going to lay the flat side down and try to get all your Predator wrap fibers in one, not clumped but flat. And I'm going to make a cut, and that thinned out about half. And then just past where I cut the other ones, I'm going to cut the rest. So that's staggered, all of them. Now I can bring this back. Look for any guys I missed. Looks like we're doing pretty good here. And I'm going to grab an intruder prop feather. This one preferably bigger, or I should say longer than the one I used in the rear. Tie it in tip first. Run my scissors down the top. And wrap that in. Alright, comb her out, make sure it's all nice and separated. See, I got a couple of little on there. Alright, now for a piece of black spey marabou. And not much at all, just about 2 wraps is all you're going to do. This will kind of round everything out, kind of blend it all together, add a little more movement. we're going to add our ostrich pearl. And I'm going to do this one in a dubbing loop. And typically I don't, but it should be a little quicker for video purposes. So anytime I'm doing feathers in a dubbing loop, it's always easier to wax your thread. Now I use this LOON Swax Low Tack. Does a good job for me. Alright, just going to grab a clump of ostrich pearl. Make sure there's not some that are blatantly out of whack here. Put it in our dubbing loop. And pick a length. And I like, on these big flies, I like the ostrich to go about halfway back. And I'm going to start separating it with my scissors here. And I'm going to hold it flat on top. And I will use my forefinger to hold it where I want. Come back, cut them. Alright, looking pretty good here. Now I can keep this at a 90 with my fingers and start spinning here. I'm going to start off not crazy, just so I can come through and pick any out real quick while it's easier before they're 100% kind of locked in. And it looks like we got them all in there with minimal casualties for as far as picking up other materials. So I'm gonna lick my fingers here and kind of get a direction going. Yeah, there we go. And start wrapping them in there. Alright, tie everything down. And looks like we're ostriched up. Now if you got something like this guy here who's just kind of going kamikaze on us, you can just take your thumb and forefinger and kind of give it a run up with your thumb the direction you want it to go, and now you can see it's kind of leaning back in a little more appealing way. Now that won't matter at all once it starts fishing, but for just looking at it on the vise here, it can be nice to have everything looking good. Because as we know, the flies that look the best in the box get picked to fish. Now this last step I'm going to do here is a piece of spey marabou. And I'm only going to want like two and a half turns here, so I'm not going to put on very much. Run my scissors down there. Alright, 2 turns. Perfect. Alright, now I'm going to jump my thread over to in front of the barbells. And I'm going to add my hackle tip wings. First I'm going to pick a length just behind, right around the end of the loop is typically, aesthetically what I like. There's no actual rocket science here. There's no rhyme or reason to do one or the other. Some flies I think it looks better when they're long, some I like better short. Typically, for me, if I've got a really thin hackle, I like them longer, and if I got a really fat hackle, I like them shorter, but that's just what I like. So match these two up. You want to strip them at the same length here. And I'm going to create kind of a V. So I'm going to put the stem through the eye. And tie her in one side, put the stem through the eye, tie her on the other side, give them some good wraps, take the stems, fold them back under, give them some more good wraps, get everything nice and secured. Whip finish. And we're done. Just add a little love this fluorescing, this LOON fluorescing cure, clear cure, UV stuff. And usually what I do is if it's kind of slippery, I'll come and just cure one side real quick and then get to the other side. As long as you hit it with the lamp pretty quick, it'll stay put so it won't drip on you. Hold it for 15 seconds, and I won't make you guys sit all through that, but there you go. Finished huge, big steelhead, Chinook, huge 5-inch intruder fly. You can definitely tie them smaller. Sometimes it's nice though just to have some big flies at the ready. Anyway, thanks for watching, and thanks for spending all this time with me tying a fly.